I'm almost 30 now. By this age, I thought my life would have taken a very different turn. Growing up, I envisioned a future filled with the sounds of little feet pattering around the house, children's laughter echoing in the halls, and the familiar chaos of family life that would give me both joy and purpose. I thought I'd be a mother by now, holding my own child in my arms, watching them grow, guiding them, loving them. But life doesn't always unfold the way we imagine, and reality has a way of catching us by surprise. Here I am, still childless, not by choice, but by circumstances that seem to have slipped beyond my control. The doctors were kind, but their words still stung like 1,000 pinpricks. It's unlikely you'll be able to conceive naturally. That sentence has stayed with me, replaying in my mind during the quiet moments when I'm alone. I never thought I would hear those words. I never thought I'd have to reconcile myself with the idea that motherhood, at least in the traditional sense, might never be mine. But I am a godmother. Many times over, in fact. I've lost count of how many friends have asked me to stand by their children, to take on that role of support, guidance, and love for their little ones. Every time I receive the request, I ask myself the same question. Why me? I'm not exactly a model of religious devotion or the epitome of stability. I have my struggles, my uncertainties, my habits, my own complicated relationship with faith. Yet, every time, the answer from my friends is the same. This is the godmother I want for my child, they say, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Strict parents can only do so much. My child needs an adult friend, someone they can turn to when they need a different kind of love. And so, I accept. Don't get me wrong, being a godmother is an honor, and I love my godchildren. Each of them, in their own way, has brought something special into my life. Daniel, with his boundless energy and constant questions about the world. Sophie, whose quiet strength and creativity remind me so much of the person I was as a child. Max, whose laughter can fill an entire room, making even the darkest days seem brighter. When I see their smiling faces, when I hear their voices calling me Tata, I feel a warmth in my heart that I can't quite put into words. In those moments, I know I've been given something precious, a chance to be part of their lives, to help shape their futures, to love them as if they were my own. But there's a strange emptiness that follows me home after each visit, a quiet, persistent ache that settles in my chest when the children go back to their mothers and fathers, when the house falls silent again, and I'm left with my thoughts. Because as much as I love my godchildren, they are not mine. I am part of their lives, yes, but I am not their mother. I am the one who will be there at birthdays and celebrations, the one who will pick them up from school on occasion, the one they might turn to for advice when they're older. But at the end of the day, I am not the one tucking them into bed or holding them when they cry. I don't have the privilege of watching them grow day by day, of feeling that deep, unbreakable bond that only a mother can feel. People see me with my godchildren and tell me how lucky I am. You're so loved by them, they say. You've made such a difference in their lives. And I smile and nod, grateful for their kind words. I know I've been blessed in many ways, and I would never take that for granted. But there's another side to this story that no one talks about. The quiet moments when I look at my godchildren playing together, when I see the love their parents have for them, and I can't help but feel a deep, aching sadness. It's a sadness that comes from knowing that, no matter how much love I give, no matter how much I care, there's a part of me that will always be empty, a part that longs for a child of my own, one I can call mine. It's hard to admit this to anyone. How do you tell the people you love, your friends, your family, that despite everything you've been given, you still feel incomplete? How do you explain that, while you are happy for them and their beautiful families, you can't help but feel a pang of jealousy every time you see a mother cradling her baby or a father playing with his daughter? So, I don't say anything. I keep these feelings to myself, tucked away in the corners of my heart, where they won't disturb anyone else. It's easier that way. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm doing enough. My friends have placed their trust in me, and I don't want to let them down. But there are days when I question whether I'm truly the right person to guide these children. I'm not exactly the model of stability or morality that a godmother is supposed to be. I've made my mistakes, and I'm far from perfect. I'm not devout. I don't live by the teachings of the church, and I struggle with my own flaws, just like anyone else. But my friends don't seem to care about that. They believe in me, even when I can't quite believe in myself. He's got enough strict rules at home. Eva once told me, when I questioned why she wanted me to be Daniel's godmother. What he needs is someone who understands him, someone who won't judge him. That's what you're for. And so I try to be that person, the one who listens, the one who understands, the one who can offer a different kind of love, a different kind of guidance. I try to be the friend my godchildren need, even when I don't always feel like I'm enough. But the doubts remain, the feeling of being incomplete, of falling short, of not living up to the role that's been entrusted to me. It lingers, and I wonder if my godchildren can sense it. Do they know how much I wish I could be more for them? Do they understand how much I want to be the best version of myself for them, even when I'm struggling to figure out who that is? Being a godmother has given me so much love, joy, a sense of purpose, but it has also illuminated the parts of myself that I try to hide. It has shown me the depth of my own longing, the quiet pain of knowing that, as much as I love these children, they will never fill the space in my heart that yearns for a child of my own. I think about the future sometimes. Will this feeling ever go away? Will I always carry this ache with me? Even as I watch my godchildren grow up, even as they come to me with their problems and joys? Or will I find peace in the role I've been given, accepting that this is the life I have, full of love, yes, but also full of longing? I don't know. I wish I did. For now, I will continue to love my godchildren with everything I have. I will be there for them when they need me. I will offer them guidance, and I will be the friend they've been promised. But I will also carry this unspoken sadness with me, the quiet ache that comes from wanting something I may never have. Because, despite everything I've been given, I am still a woman who longs for a child of her own. And that longing, no matter how loved I am, no matter how full my life may seem, remains the deepest part of me. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. For years, I had convinced myself that motherhood was out of reach, that my role in life was to care for others' children, my godchildren, and not for one of my own. I had resigned myself to being the fun godmother, the supportive friend, the one who never quite had her own piece of the pie but lived on the edges of everyone else's happiness. That was until Tom came into my life. I met him in the most ordinary way, at a friend's dinner party. It wasn't love at first sight, but there was something about him that felt right. He was calm, kind, and didn't seem to be burdened by the pressures of life the way I always was. I found his quiet confidence both refreshing and comforting. We exchanged a few casual words that night, but I thought nothing of it. After all, I had long stopped expecting love to walk into my life. At 30, with more baggage than I cared to admit, I didn't see myself as someone anyone would look at twice. But Tom did. He asked me out a week later. The date was simple. Coffee at a small cafe near my apartment. I thought it would be just that simple. But over the course of that hour, I found myself opening up to him in a way I hadn't with anyone in a long time. "Tell me about your godchildren," he asked, genuinely interested, not like others who would ask just to be polite. I laughed and told him about Daniel, who had recently started walking, and how he had a little waddle that was both endearing and hilarious. I told him about Max, who was asking all sorts of big questions about the world, and Sophie, who had started ballet and was already performing in her first recital. Tom listened carefully, his eyes never leaving mine. "You're really good with kids, aren't you?" I shrugged, still not entirely convinced. "I guess, but they're not my kids, you know." He smiled gently. "But you love them like they are." That statement hit me in a way I hadn't expected. In all my years of being a godmother, I had never considered the depth of my love for these children. Yes, they weren't biologically mine, but I loved them fiercely, with all my heart. And in that moment, Tom saw that, too. One date turned into two turned into three, and before I knew it, Tom had become a fixture in my life. He was steady and patient, never rushing me, always understanding. I didn't need to hide my doubts or my imperfections from him. He saw me for who I was and loved me anyway. As we grew closer, I found myself slowly letting go of the insecurities that had weighed me down for so long. For the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't need to apologize for who I was. Tom didn't see me as someone who was incomplete or broken. He saw me as whole. Our conversations were always easy, even when we ventured into difficult topics. One evening, over dinner, I finally opened up to him about my fears of not being able to have children. "It's something I've always wanted," I admitted, the words catching in my throat. "But it may never happen for me. The doctors, they weren't optimistic." Tom reached across the table and took my hand in his. "I don't love you because I expect you to give me children," he said softly. "I love you because of who you are. If we're meant to have kids, we will. And if not, we'll have an incredible life together anyway." I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but for the first time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. Tom wasn't just offering me love. He was offering me acceptance. 2 years passed, and Tom and I built a life together. It wasn't always perfect, but it was ours. We shared moments of joy and laughter, traveled when we could, and celebrated small victories together. Tom became close with my godchildren, attending birthdays and special events, and they adored him. One evening, while we were cooking dinner, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was sudden, intense, and left me lightheaded. I brushed it off at first, thinking it was just something I ate or maybe stress from work. But the nausea returned the next morning and the morning after that. "I think you should take a test," Tom suggested, his brow furrowed with concern. I stared at him, my heart pounding. "A pregnancy test." "Yes," he said, smiling gently. "It's worth checking, right?" I was hesitant. After years of believing I couldn't get pregnant, the idea of taking a test seemed pointless, like it would only open the door to disappointment again. But Tom's encouragement was soft, supportive, and he wasn't pushing me. He just wanted me to know. So I did it. I remember holding the test in my hand, my fingers trembling as I waited for the result. Time seemed to stretch on forever, the seconds ticking away like hours. And then I saw it. 2 lines. Positive. I stared at the test, unable to process what I was seeing. This had to be a mistake. How could this be possible? "Tom," I called out, my voice shaking. He rushed into the bathroom, concern etched on his face. "What is it?" I held up the test, my hands trembling. I'm pregnant." For a moment, we both stood in stunned silence, the weight of the news sinking in. Then, without warning, Tom's face broke into the biggest grin I had ever seen, and he wrapped his arms around me, lifting me off the ground in sheer joy. "Are you serious?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief and excitement. "We're having a baby." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, we're having a baby." But the surprises weren't over yet. A week later, at my first ultrasound appointment, the doctor turned the screen toward me and pointed at something. "Do you see that?" she said, smiling. I squinted at the screen, confused. "Yes, but what am I looking at?" "2 heartbeats," the doctor said. "You're having twins." The news of twins felt surreal. I had gone from believing I could never have children to being blessed with 2 little lives growing inside of me. It felt like the universe had given me a gift I never expected, a gift I had longed for, but had been too afraid to hope for. Tom was ecstatic, already planning for the future, talking about baby names and nursery decorations. And for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to dream, too. To imagine what it would be like to hold my children in my arms, to watch them grow, to give them the love I had always wanted to give. The pregnancy wasn't easy. There were days when the fear crept back in, when I worried that something would go wrong, that this happiness was too good to be true. But Tom was there, every step of the way, reassuring me, reminding me that we were in this together. My godchildren were thrilled when they found out I was pregnant. Sophie and Max kept asking me when they would get to meet the babies, already treating themselves like they were the older siblings. It was heartwarming to see them so excited, to know that they would be part of my children's lives, just as I had been a part of theirs. As the months passed, my belly grew, and with it, my sense of fulfillment. I had spent so many years believing that motherhood wasn't in the cards for me, and now, as I neared the end of my pregnancy, I realized that my heart had room for so much more love than I had ever imagined. My godchildren remained an important part of my life, and I cherished the bond we had. But now, I was preparing to welcome my own children into the world. 2 babies who would carry with them the love and hope that had blossomed from the most unexpected places. Tom and I often sat together in the evenings, our hands resting on my belly as we felt the babies kick and move. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always the possibility of light. Even when you think the door is closed, life has a way of opening a window. I had spent so many years questioning my worth, feeling like I wasn't enough, like I couldn't fulfill the role of motherhood that I had dreamed of for so long. But now, as I prepared to meet my twins, I realized something important. I had always been enough. Whether as a godmother or as a mother, the love I had to give was real, and it mattered. And as I waited for my babies to arrive, I knew that I was ready to give them the best version of myself, because I had finally found the love I had been searching for, not just from Tom, but from within myself.